Hello, welcome, and or welcome back. You're welcome regardless, whatever your status is in terms of having a relationship to my channel. I'm just happy to have you. My name is not Sylphie MK, and typically I like to talk about video games, but every now and again I like to talk about something that is more important to me, that being my attraction to men. Today we're going to be talking about Fire Emblem Heroes because FE content is the only thing that gets any traction on my channel, and I really want to be monetized. We're almost at 1,000. Thank you very much for your continued support. I personally do not play Heroes. I haven't touched it since it came out back in 2018, 2019. Just like the ongoing forever mobile game format is not for me. And while I clearly do love Fire Emblem, I don't love it in like a watered down strategy gacha game format where all of the characters are hot PNG images. That's just not my lane. Just, being a part of the community, one thing that I have noticed over time is the increased sexualization of the characters from the franchise, especially in the women, especially if you're paying attention to the hero's original characters. In a lot of the women, the designers seem to be satisfied with featuring a single type of body. Not that any body is wrong, but if there's one thing I'm going to do, it's make a stupid video about sexy looking characters and explore the optics of that. Why do they have to be sexy? And if they're gonna be sexy, where are the men? I went through every single man in Heroes. I didn't go through all the boys. That's, once again, not my lane. Is Shota present in Fire Emblem Heroes? Absolutely it is. I don't really care about Heroes, but I do peek in every now and again. Sometimes the artwork is really nice and characters get revitalized in certain ways. It's nice to see a new version of a character, especially from the older games where the art is like person holding a bow wearing a t-shirt. So it is interesting to see the choices being made through Heroes and through Fire Emblem Cypher, rest in peace. Some of the artwork from that card game is just gorgeous. Cypher definitely stuck more to a specific look when it came to the cards that they were doing. In Heroes, they clearly source a lot of different artists. So it's interesting to have a character like Arthur be drawn more in a comic book style versus just like classic, smooth, luminous anime image that a lot of the characters do rest in. I looked through all of the PNGs and tried to acknowledge certain trends in a scientific, academic sense. Because this is research. I'm a woman in STEM. I'm going back to school in the fall, maybe. They haven't accepted my application yet. I'm just curious to know if they're more willing to make the men hot. Especially when they're not just doing the character's original design, when they're doing special events, how do they reinterpret the character in that context as well? I'm looking at you, Fire Emblem Beach Trip characters. You think that would be a hot spot, but we'll get into it. I went over the games in chronological order. I started with the Heroes characters and then we went from the first game up until now. And I definitely noticed that with Awakening onwards, in the men specifically. Women, I can't speak to that. That's not who I was looking for. And it could be because there's a greater volume of different iterations of the same character from the newer games because they're more popular in the cultural consciousness. But I found that Awakening onwards, the characters are more likely to be sexualized in some way at least, or because they're more popular, they're going to get more iterations. They're going to be at the beach. They're going to be doing Easter. They're going to be doing bridal. They're going to be doing Halloween. Newer characters are more likely to get that treatment as opposed to some of the older ones. In terms of the franchise, I do think it's Awakening's fault as well. In terms of character design, we do see a clear shift once we hit Awakening that pivots more towards chasing current trends as opposed to sticking with this like traditional European medieval fantasy setting, some variations thereupon. But Awakening, we're seeing a little bit more skin. We're seeing less drapey, flowing clothing. I especially think of the characters who have garter belt with hearts in their design, like Sumia, Noe, Cordelia. And I think those elements are really cute. I'm not knocking these designs. Noe's, I have in the past and I will continue to do that. But the other ones, sure. Beyond the visual design shift, I also think the addition of a player insert character along with increased dating sim elements also lends itself to sexualization of the characters. In terms of marketing them, you now also have to think why would someone want to date them? Not that it becomes the whole aspect of the character, but I think it's something you have to consider. If that was the product I was making, I would consider that if I was in the room. Awakening also brought the fan service a little bit. In the DLC, Chrom wearing those little trunks with his shoulder tattoo over the butt. It's a fantasy, but thinking about it, someone had to make those shorts for him to wear. And then they also did the hot spring one where everyone is kind of flush and they're getting ready for the bath. I was gonna talk about this in the Sumia video, but then I cut that out because I kind of just veered a little bit too far off. But the Einherjar, which is like the first time the franchise went in and redesigned older characters for modern sensibilities, at least to my awareness. I don't like what they did to Micaiah at all. If you look at many of the characters in Heroes, they do something very similar where they're very willing to age them up and down. Moving on to Fates, I think they just upped the ante. There's more fan service. In the original Japanese version, you can pet your lover and blow on them. I think you can still do that in the Western release. I can't remember. You can be mad at me in the comments below. Camilla being promiscuous older sister is always at the crux of that discussion. Shifting back to Heroes, when looking at a lot of the designs, keep in mind that this is not an exhaustive list. So if I talk about something and you're like, but this character, you're welcome to let me know. I'm happy for the engagement. I'm not going to go into a deep dive on characters who already look a certain way. Like Saber's just kind of a hot guy. They don't need to do much work for that. Same with Hawkeye. He's already pretty naked because that class design is generally naked. Same with like the 3DS era dark mages. They tend to show a lot of skin. So besides those kind of characters, I'm sad to report that Heroes does very little to up the ante for hot men. I looked at so many pictures and I was like, okay, it's not really giving. We're lucky to get a little bit of knee in the damage portraits. Every character in Heroes has 4 portraits. In case you're watching this and don't know, which thank you for being here, they have just a standard character art portrait, an attack portrait, a critical / like special skill portrait, which is usually just an embellishment of the attack one. And then there's the damage portrait. The damage portrait is usually where we can kind of peel back a layer and see if the artist was intending to do something here. What clothes come off, how, where, how much. That's where we start to see intention. And there aren't that many. Like I said, we're lucky to get knee. But Sedith, many iterations of Bruno, who is a Hero's original character, both of their shirts fully explode off. So that was something. But again, that's like a couple characters in a few hundred, right? Some characters have really tight clothes that are just puckering over burgeoning muscle. Shannon, spelling, Yenfei, Resolute Joshua, and Niles all stood out in this regard. And a lot of the resplendent designs will have like a very skin tight abdominal area, but that kind of exists within superhero space. So it doesn't feel as gratuitous, if that makes sense. With a lot of the women, the holiday / yearly special event redesigns are really when the girls come out to play. There's been so many years now of Heroes. They just celebrated their 7th anniversary, which was like not intentional that I was going to do this video right now, but I got the email and I was like, the algorithm, she's going to be well fed today by me. But like the game has been out for 7 years. The women are Playboy bunnies at Easter. With the men, we're lucky to get a little bit of cleave here. Grateful to eat the crumbs off the plate. The summer banners, sometimes there's 2 summer banners, so they'll do like 8 characters instead of just the regular 4. Like I said, the girls are out. How many ways can you draw a bikini? But with the men, you're telling me they're wearing capris? They really got it right with Frederick. And then I think Beach, Xander, and Ryoma also exist solidly within that tier of like actual sexualization. But otherwise, the men are just here. No butts, no bulge, no boobs. Special mention here for the wedding outfits. Normally the men just like wear nice white suits. We have to talk about Crom and Robin being 2 grooms who certainly love other people. I'll take gay couples for 400, Alex. Easter isn't giving. Bartrey is carrying it on his wide back. Halloween is also whatever. Bearded Hector does something for me, but he's carrying his daughter. So I'm like, oh, that's a father. He has his own business. Also Dorcas Pumpkin Smasher. Smash. Nothing at Christmas. And then I couldn't tell what the concept of these special events were, but Chris, Raphael, and Dean all have like similar sheer redesigns. I know that Chris and Raphael were part of the same banner and Dean is just like doing his own thing. Chris does have a regular design and his gender swapped counterpart is also in the game. But with Raphael and Dean, the only way to get them is in these horny outfits. And they all have dialogue as well pertaining to what they're wearing. So obviously it's something that the writers want you to think about. Dean like looks down, looks up and goes, I don't know why I'm wearing this. Raphael is like, oh my God, my muscles. I wish my sister was here. He's just a himbo. And then Chris has a lot of lines that are like, oh my God, this outfit. He's like, I don't know. It's a little, like I'm a little exposed, but I kind of like it. And a lot of people are giving me a lot of compliments or just looking. And, you know, Katarina is also dressed a certain way and I like the way that she looks. And she said she likes the way that I look. I'm like, oh my God, Chris. It's giving. He was feeling it. I was also kind of hoping for some switch ups. Give me some hot old men. Give me some hot fat guys. I was really hoping that like Bantu would have 700-year-old crazy muscular abs just for like a switch up. Like give me some dragon feet and then just like a sinewy built chest. And they don't do that for him, but the character Riev, we do have an old man ab feature. Oh my god, I didn't write it down for whatever reason, but the pirate guy from FE7, he's giving, he could get it. Before approaching this endeavor that is so important to the community and not stupid, I forgot about Furry Central and how many furry adjacent characters are a part of the franchise. By the time I got to FE8 and FE9, I was like, this is where the money's gonna be. This is gonna be a treasure trove, because they were already more willing to make these characters hot in the original game. And we do have some good redesigns here where I'm like, okay, not bad. Not bad at all. I see you, FE heroes, but I think you can up the ante a little bit more. A lot of the furry characters either show more skin or more of their clothes rip off. Correlation does not imply causation, but I think there's something there. Surprisingly enough, the furries were where it's at, but just not from the games where being a furry is plot relevant and has real world implications. Keaton from Fates is in there for having a lot of clothes tear off, and also his butt. The way that the light and shadows are, that's intentional. And then we hit the only character who is specifically posed sexually, and that's furry Robin, the last character I expected. But his damage art, I'm like, oh, this is evocative. Fall reincarnation Robin is the character who right now wears the crown of like specifically being most sexualized. And then I noticed that there's a very similar art of Robin as well. The Fell reincarnation also has like a lot of clothes tear off, they're skin tight, there's an emphasis on the chest, and I think if the artist had their way, the black leggings would not be underneath. And then I was like, let's take a look at them. This artist is also responsible for Keaton. They are behind Resplendent Joshua. They drew Shannon in this very tight turtleneck. Like in this picture, like it's just skin tight. Do you know how excited I was when I found this key art? A little something for the girls and the gays. Look at their chests. After a really bleak look through where I wasn't finding anything, I found a little spigot of water. And a big thank you to Okuma Yugo for actually making some decent meals. I just saw that Robin artwork and I was like, is this what straight men are being delivered all the time? I'm just so used to not looking for men being sexualized. I feel like straight men are getting this kind of content all the time and they don't even know. Like, do you guys know that it's not normal? And of course it would also be the intersection of furries as well. Furries and muscle gays. That's where the gay dollar is. Of course. Honestly, why am I surprised? I'm not. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you for listening to my stupid dummy wummy recap of something that doesn't matter. What did we learn today? Happy Valentine's Day.